The divisional round of the NFL playoffs ends. We dive into this past week's games as well as take a look at the conference games coming up. Plus, we look at where some top names could land at in an auction league. All this and more in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow fanatics, welcome back to the Average Bros Fantasy Show, sponsored by Football Darts and Fantasy Sports Alliance. You guys already know I got the below average man, not the myth, and most certainly not the legend yet, my brother Kevin. Kevin, how you making out tonight?
I am doing just a little bit above average, as all of my predictions for this past weekend came true. In the NFL playoffs, did pretty well in our playoff challenge as well, which I know we'll probably talk more about tomorrow. But how about yourself?
I am doing amazing. I know you told me about about where I'm at currently in the playoff challenge, and I am not doing too shabby. So, high hopes.
Yeah, I believe you're sitting at number 4. I'm sitting just outside the top 10 at number 11, and our average stat guy is nowhere to be seen.
Playing for a free entry. Well, yeah, we're playing for a free entry here, and I believe he already said that if he did win, he would kind of pass it off to somebody else. I don't know if that holds true, but I mean, everybody out there, you guys should be looking for him to win.
2 years ago, I won it. I beat Brian Lewis by a point. That's the general manager for TDs and beer out of the Great Lakes region. And I did, in fact, give him my free entry. It's not fair for the commissioner. Still paid my way in that year. Did not fare so well last year. Give me a couple minutes. I'll let you guys know where you're at.
All right. And while he is doing that, and of course, before we get into our show tonight, we, of course, would like to thank our broadcast sponsor, Football Darts. Football Darts is a dart game that combines the skill of traditional darts with the strategies of American football. This innovative dart game is played on a uniquely designed multiple target dartboard. It can be played in sports bars, at tailgate events, as league tournaments, or as a leisure activity in the comfort of your home. If you would like to check out their officially licensed collegiate dartboards, go to footballdarts.com. And of course, if you like the show, please like, share, and subscribe to the show and follow us on all of our social media outlets you see here at the bottom of the screen in just a second, as well as check out our amazing website, fsa-fr.com. And on fsa-fr.com, you guys can also check out Josh, Brad, and Eric on the Empty Wagon Show. It's the end of the football season, so I mean, we're kind of just bouncing all over the place of things to do to keep it a little spicy up in here. So, but at the end of the day, they're giving you a bunch of comedy, just a ton of fun whenever you watch them. Like if you're driving down the road, you need something to listen to, pop them on, and it's a really good show. I'll tell you that, to say the least. Kevin, speaking of bouncing all over the place, trying to find some way to spice it up, what do we have in store tonight?
Tonight we have a bunch of stuff as we go throughout our show. We're going to start with the recap of last week's playoff round. I know it was personally a little heartbreaking. I got to say, is it bittersweet? Kwon Smith, number 1 receiver in fantasy for the week, I believe, throughout the playoff challenge. Yet a no-show for the rest of the team.
I will say it's nice to see a FSA legend like Saquon Smith be the top receiver for the week. However, all of that is kind of fizzled away when it's capped off with an L, and it basically is, an end to the run that New Orleans has been having, and it potentially the end of a amazing career for Drew Brees. I mean, only one ring. Wish we would have been able to see more, and that's even if he does retire. I mean, battling back and forth with Brady for number one on passing touchdowns, first quarterback to hit 80,000 yards. They're amazing season overall.
Yeah, I believe I pulled it up in it throughout the game, and right now I believe every regular season category that you could earn through the air as a quarterback, it is held either by Brees and Brady at 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Passing yards in a game, passing yards or passing touchdowns, um, passing yards in a season, touchdowns in a season, career touchdowns, career passing yards. I believe almost all of them are held by Brady or Brees at this time. And you got to think anything that is held by Brees will probably be taken by Brady next year. Reports are coming out that I know that he did sign the deal with ESPN in the preseason, before the season. Has not yet come out and said that he's officially going to start that venture, but kind of leaning that way.
Yeah, it's leaning that way. He basically said that he has a lot to think about for his future, and even still, if he does decide to hang it up, he kind of walked out of Mercedes-Benz Superdome, kind of just thanking the fans. Right as he was about to go into the tunnel, kind of took a second to look back at the field. It was not the way that I would say he expected to go out on, but I mean, every great player has one of those days, and just that when it mattered most, it just wasn't his day.
And Brian chimes in here with Trey Kwon for the win or Kwon for the win. We haven't really ironed out our new average roast teas that we'll have that on it yet. But what do you think the future holds for him? I mean, Michael Thomas came out after the game and said, I played hurt. I didn't want to see Brees' last game. I didn't want to not play in what could have been Drew's last game. And then obviously, I believe it was 0 for 6 targets, no catches on the game. They kind of locked him down as much as he played anyway, because again, he was still hurt. Activate Traquan Smith off of the IR for the game, and he goes out on balls. How does that look next year for him?
I think it helps his case. I mean, I think he solidifies himself as the number 3 guy there, alongside Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. As far as Michael Thomas playing in what could be Drew Brees' last game, sentimentally, I think it was, solid that you're playing through an injury to play with one of the best on what could be his last game. However, I mean, that's just what helped Tampa Bay in their win. They were able to shut down Michael Thomas. They were able to pretty much shut down Kamara as well. And then just, like I said, the turnovers alone is what absolutely killed them. You take away those turnovers, New Orleans would win all day.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, nothing to take away from the Saints, but anytime you give a quarterback, let's call him quarterback X, a third chance in a game, 3 games in one season, or even over the course of 2 or 3 seasons, it's extremely hard to win. I believe the chances of winning that third game is slim to none once you get enough play film on the team. So for them to go and play 3 times in 1 year and Brady to come back, and not much of a surprise to me anyway. You give Brady that much more momentum to go in there and get things done. However, in the past 2 matchups, obviously did not look like they would go that way. Damian chimes in and said he believes Tom Winston did throw him a TD. Could that be the future? And then he corrects himself and says Jameis Winston.
So it's hard to put my eggs in that basket to potentially think about Jameis Winston leading the Saints next season. I mean, to be fair, the last time he did start for a team, he did lead the league in passing yards. However, he also led the league in interceptions, I believe.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's back and forth. I mean, if he can lead the league in yards and interceptions and still get into the playoffs, so be it. Or if they decide to go the route of Taysom Hill and try and develop him as a better quarterback. I mean, he had the stretch of games where he was doing not too bad, and then he kind of fell short against Philly. I think that both the options that they have right now, you know, you can't go wrong with either or if they decide to get somebody through a trade. And that's all even if Drew Brees retires. If Drew Brees comes back, they're handing him the ball regardless.
Now, on to the second game that we saw play out of the same conference there. Green Bay getting the win, looking pretty formidable. What's your thoughts on that game?
Pretty much what I predicted to happen did not happen. I saw a number one defense going into a game. Yes, it was on the road. However, I mean, they played on the road the week before against Seattle, and they came out on top. You know, you have one of the top corners, and Jalen Ramsey couldn't get anything done. We all know that there's the one play where you got Devontae Adams running across the line, and Ramsey just couldn't keep up. And then, like, when Adams catches it, Ramsey has a complete hissy fit. And then, I mean, Aaron Donald couldn't really get anything done. And pretty much that's just how you shut the Rams down. If you can run and pass over their defense, their offense isn't as strong as it used to be able to keep up with that.
Now, do you think that that game was more of a testament of just a bad game plan by the Rams, or do you think that the Packers are really that dominant?
I think it does just show how dominant the Packers can be. Like I said, number one defense, I believe number one passing defense, number one or like number three or something like that, rushing defense, and they were able to do just both. I mean, there's teams like the Chiefs who can only throw. There's teams like the Titans who can only run. And, you know, the Packers were able to do both. And, you know, that's what wins games.
As Damian says here, offense wins championships in today's NFL. I believe the saying goes, defense wins games, offense wins championships. And, you know, that's been the tale of the past few years. So I believe that rings true, and I believe it will ring true again this year.
I thought it was offense. I thought it was offense sells tickets, defense wins games, or defense wins championships.
Same thing, if you look at it that way.
Well, you could sell tickets and lose.
I think that, you know, what Damien's referring to is, you know, you could have a good defense, but if you have a stronger offense, you know, that gives up points in games but can go out and still ball and, you know, put up as many yards as Aaron Rodgers did, and, you know, getting his Rodgers rate all over in the game. I don't think any defense is going to stop that. I think it's going to be a tough test for Tom and Tampa Bay. Granted, they locked down the Saints, but you locked down a hurt Saints. You know, let's be honest, they weren't out there at 100% with Thomas's injury, so we'll definitely be looking at that matchup. But moving to the other side of the league, we had the Chiefs coming out as the number one seed, beating the Browns as most had predicted. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, they could have won. There was a chance there. However, their defense came up short when it mattered most, when there was a backup quarterback in the game for the Chiefs. So I think that just goes to show that Cleveland's not 100% there yet. I mean, they came a long way from where they were last season. I'll give them that. And I mean, it could just be another case of, Baltimore over the past 2 seasons. I mean, Baltimore, they made the playoffs, got knocked out in the first round. Then they made the playoffs, made a decent push, got knocked out. So they're increasingly getting better every year. It's just they kind of got the short end of the stick having to go to Arrowhead and play Kansas City. And, I mean, it's just a hard task as it is.
Yeah, Arrowhead looked pretty full. It got loud in there. Arrowhead is the loudest stadium in the league. So I think even at 50% capacity, you're looking at a pretty high up noise level there. So definitely still a tough game. I think that personally, the way that the Chiefs play is just hard to beat. You have to play lockdown defense. I mean, they can run the ball. I believe Clyde Edwards-Hilaire did not play. He will be back this week. So Le'Veon Bell had to take a bigger role than he normally has since being with the Chiefs. So that's kind of a moot point when you have all the receivers that they do. Tyreek Hill, the fastest receiver in the league. Pair that with one of the best tight ends to play in the past 10 years in Travis Kelce. Pretty tough feat to beat, especially if you're banged up on the other side of the ball, as the Browns have been at the running back position with their two-headed monster. So I think that the Browns can get back there next year. As you mentioned, it's really just improving year over year and just get better in time. Still young altogether. I mean, everyone in the AFC this year or in this round was under 25 or 25 or under, so they're all young. So stiff competition to come, but I think that they can get it done next year. At least get back to the same position anyway.
And
Damien says, will the Super Bowl be deemed the State Farm Bowl if Rodgers plays Mahomes? I don't see it going that way. Personally, we will definitely talk about that more tomorrow with our stat guy as we do our predictions then. I know we'll highlight it a little bit, but I don't see it being a State Farm Bowl. So do with that as you will.
What if I told you that there is a rumor out there that the NFL is all staged, just like the WWE is, and I'm starting to believe it more and more? What do you think about that?
I would tell you that you're crazy.
Probably. I mean, I would probably agree with you. But when I hear Damien say things like that, and I had the same type of thought this morning of how much publicity is State Farm getting for this. We already know. We see the Rodgers rate and the Patrick Price every commercial break. Like, what are the chances? Maybe there's something to it. Who knows? And to follow up with the earlier part of the show, Josh is sitting at 4th. Kevin is at 11th. And yours truly is at
I can't 4th. 4th means that I'm the third loser.
Yeah.
I can't
Everybody remember, if you ain't first, you're last. So
Ricky
keep
Bobby.
that in mind. I don't know what to do with my hands. As we get into the last game.
I was going to say, yeah.
We've got the Bills winning over the team that's not the Bills. What do you think about there?
We have the Bills beating the other team that starts with a B.
Yes.
Baltimore. That's what it was.
Yes.
I
didn't think there was another team there. It didn't seem like anyone had showed up, so I don't think it was worth mentioning.
Well, they took out their top player in Lamar Jackson in place of a discounted Lamar Jackson, because from what I saw, he looked pretty like dang close to Lamar Jackson. Just the way he sat in the pocket, meaning he didn't sit in the pocket, he just kind of moved around, used his legs. And also, I mean, there's the obvious of Justin Tucker. I mean, the missed field goals didn't help. I mean, yeah, had he made the field goals, it would have been 17-9, but it's still in a better position.
Jenna pops on and says, "My favorite fellows, how are you, Jenna? I hope all is well." And Damien chimes in a little bit earlier and says, "Browns didn't have OBJ. Wonder if that will help or hurt them going forward." You got to only assume that more weapons would help him. Having one less receiver, I mean, you can't really deny OBJ's talent. He has shown it, although more streakily than his former Giants days than he does now. But I believe that's more so because of the targets to him are greater with the Giants, being that he really didn't play side by side too much, and Landry has been a formidable number one with them. But on the Bills game, I agree with you. I think that the Lamar couldn't do his thing and was taken out early in the game, whether that be because of injury or constipation, we'll never know. But I think that moving forward, I think this is the Lamar and Ravens that you'll see more often than not. I think they played just well enough in really a lower tier one type AFC to get to the playoffs. I don't think they should have ever been in there. I don't think they can hang with any of the other teams that did make it.
Damien says, a Lamar Jackson-led Ravens only managed 3 points up to the point he got constipated. Wait, I mean concussed, so they were not getting much offense from either QB. I honestly agree with you. I just I just don't think so. The Lamar that went out there, I just don't think that was the Lamar that we seen. That was a concussed Lamar. We didn't see the constipated Lamar. The constipated Lamar, he came back out from the locker room, 10 pounds lighter, and he won the game. He did what he had to do.
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at it, across AFC and NFC, I've always said this: you almost usually have the better teams in the AFC. We're talking, the Patriots, Steelers, big defenses. You're looking at Peyton Manning and the Colts, the Chiefs now, but it's a very small upper echelon. Outside of that, there's a huge second tier, which if you were to move them over to the NFC, would easily be beaten. The NFC, if you're looking at it as a whole, are more war-torn, I feel. Usually comes across a lot more injuries. The games are a lot tougher. A lot of the divisions are more evenly matched. If I'm the Ravens, if I put them over and you play the Bears, I can't say that they beat the Bears out of the first round. I can't say that the Ravens beat Washington out of the first round. I don't think that they belonged in this grouping. Personally, I think they were just a matchup of playing worse off teams there. Jenna comes back and says, "All right, lovely. She's off like a prom dress." Jenna, I wish you a good night, and thanks for checking in with us. Damien says, we already read that. Josh, what else you got on this game?
I'm sitting here looking here, and I know you said that usually, so the Super Bowl, it's more favored towards AFC. And basically just put it this way. The last NFC team to win the Super Bowl was the Eagles. And prior to that was 2013 was the Seahawks. So decent team. And then just to go back a little further, because there's a stretch of NFC here, there was the Saints in 2010, Packers in 2010, and Giants in 2011. But just sticking with the Eagles, that's not a good sight.
No. Damien checks back in and says Lamar Jackson so far in his career has 2 different QBs. a regular season versus a postseason. Do you think, Damian, and this is a question posed to you as well, Josh, do you think that is because of the style of player he is? I mean, I can't name any running or run first quarterback that has won a decent amount of playoff games or made it into a Super Bowl. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks that are mobile there. You're talking about Russell Wilson early in his career, more mobile. Patrick Mahomes, he's mobile, but they all have arms that could get there. So, um, I don't think a run first quarterback has been there in the least recent memory, anyway.
So I wouldn't even consider Russell Wilson to be as mobile as career. I even still then I think he was just elusive, yes, but I don't think he was one of those like, okay, right when I feel pressure, I'm running. Like he would be more of those like, okay, I feel pressure in the pocket, rolls out to the side and then throws it. That's the Russell Wilson that I know. However, what was I about to say? The last like actual mobile QB, like mobile first QB that I could see that was even close to winning it was back in 2015 with Cam Newton. If I was to think of like a modern day, like before, like the quarterback before Lamar, it would be Cam Newton, and then before that was obviously Michael Vick.
Yeah,
but I don't think he really ever won a Super Bowl.
So next weekend, we got it rolling across the screen there. We have the early game, Tampa Tom versus Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, the battle at the Bay at 3:05. And then later in the day, we have Josh Allen leading Buffalo in their first championship game in what seems forever against Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, who tries to go to back-to-back Super Bowls at 6:40 p.m. I'm not going to ask you your predictions. I believe you are joining us tomorrow, correct?
Possibly, if people want me there.
Possibly.
I will mention, though, and I don't remember exactly where I saw this, but I will mention, though, that we might be in for a treat this weekend, Kevin. And that treat, that treat being we might get the treat of having not one, but two snowy games.
That would be very interesting. Tom has not played in the snow in a little bit. Been down there soaking up the Florida sun. So can he go back and play in the snow? Who knows? They don't call it the frozen tundra for nothing over there in Green Bay. They love it. They play in short sleeves and shorts in the snow. So I would never really want to play anybody with that type of mentality.
Tom said he's ready. Tom said he
got Buffalo. I believe it was Buffalo that two or 3 years ago when we had really bad snow, they were actually paying fans with free parking passes and tickets to come clean out their stadium because they had too much snow. They couldn't get it done in time. And people were just showing up with shovels. By the way, I do have to mention a bright spot in today's world, in today's NFL. After Lamar's injury, I don't have the exact dollar amount on it. Maybe our stat guy can help us out, or yourself. But
so
Buffalo.
Oh, we're losing Kevin.
So I'm just gonna
donate to.
I'm just gonna cap off what Kevin was gonna say because Kevin, we lost you for a second. The Bills Mafia donates $360,000 to Lamar Jackson's favorite charity after his injury, and I also saw that Bills fans, I believe, donated $200,000 to that charity as well. So, and I was gonna ask you, is that like a sign of respect or a little bit of like kind of like, hey, we beat you, so we feel bad, and like it's like
no, not out of Buffalo. I've said this many times, and it's I feel that it rings very true coming from a Patriots fan. I do honestly believe that Buffalo has the best fans in the league, the most loyal and the most kind-hearted, if you will. If you could pick a group, it would be them for me. Loyal enough to jump through tables covered in ketchup and mustard and flames and whatever else they have in the parking lot to put on there. Loyal enough to have 4 straight Super Bowl parades after having 4 straight losses.
Well, you take them as you can. It's not often that they get into the Super Bowl, it looks like. So I think we're pretty much losing Kevin as he's like sitting there with his eyes closed. He fell asleep. But I know that Kevin had mentioned that him and our above average stat guy tomorrow, Wednesday night on the Fanatically Row broadcast at 8:30, are going to give you their predictions for who's going to win this upcoming week in the conference championships. So that pretty much brings us into the NFL news brought to you by the Recast, the official music of FSA. And we already pretty much mentioned Bills, the Mafia donating money to Lamar Jackson's charity, as well as their fans donating money. So, I mean, I have a whole decent amount of news here. I mean, if you want me to go through the whole thing, I will.
Kick it off. Let's see what you got, and I'll let you know.
Okay, so Baltimore, one of their problems is they can't get a running game going, and I guess they're figuring out the problem. They think it's Mark Ingram. They gave him the boot to free up $5 million in cap room. So that leaves the veteran running back, free agent. A.J. Brown, made the Pro Bowl this year. However, he said that he should have been done after week 2. He is having surgery on his knees, like with an S on the end, apparently. So, I mean, hats off to him. He still made it into the Pro Bowl celebration or whatever they're doing for the Pro Bowl this year.
Yeah, virtual Pro Bowl, I believe, Madden-style tournaments. From what I read, they haven't released all the information. I know it's coming out slowly. So,
yeah, I believe they said they're going to have a Madden game to just show something, I guess. I wonder if they're going to actually show it on TV and stuff. That would actually be pretty cool.
I think it should be a tournament. You can only play as your player. Player lock. You can't move off yourself.
Well, I know. I actually know that there was. I don't remember who it was, but there was an actual NFL player who held a Madden tournament among a bunch of NFL players.
I believe it was Juju.
I believe it was. For some reason I was thinking Odell, but I think it was Juju. Calvin Johnson, should he be first ballot Hall of Famer?
That's a tough one. I'm going to have to say no. In comparison, you look at guys like T.O., he's not in yet and was not a first ballot. I think he cut his career a little bit too short for me to consider him a first ballot guy. Does he deserve to be in there? Probably. I mean, a fantastic player, one of the largest reaches of any receiver from side to side. Probably the best hands that I've seen outside of Hopkins and Larry Fitz. So should he be first ballot? Probably not.
So I have a question for you. Do you think he needs to be in – okay, maybe not first time. Do you think he deserves to be in the Hall?
Yeah, in the Hall, yes. First ballot, probably not.
Okay, so when I first heard you say no to that, I thought you were thinking no to the Hall because – say careers cut short. Both him and Barry Sanders played for 10 years, both for the same team. And then I think there was some kind of comparison to T.O. there for a little bit as well, who in my eyes should not see the Hall of Fame. This is just me in a big argument that we can have in another time, kind of like a Frank Gore as well, which I know in both cases that I'll probably get a lot of hate for saying that about both of those guys. Neither one of them have done anything to impress me and why they should be in the Hall of Fame. Frank Gore has those numbers because he's played as long as he has, and that's why. But I think from a pure on the field standpoint, Megatron was just as effective as Randy Moss was. And I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Randy's in, right?
Yeah, Randy is in.
All right.
He was first ballot Hall of Famer.
Okay. So maybe not first. I can see your argument there, but he's definitely deserves to be in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree that he should be in. Maybe not, first ballot, but he does deserve to be there. NFL Combine to have new format, no in-person workouts, virtual interviews, and testing as part of new format. Do you think that changes anything how, last year's Combine was?
I mean, I don't think so. I think that it's still going to be pretty much business as usual. I think that if you're an NFL scout, you are probably at the college games anyway, scouting. To me, I think that I personally believe that there is too much stock put into the combine. Perfect example. It's probably been said. If it's been said once, it's been said 1,000 times about Tom Brady. They have the great clip of the 49ers reading off his draft card. They said, that he had a poor body. He was too slow, didn't have the arm strength, yada, yada, yada. The list goes on. Drafted 199th overall, probably the greatest quarterback of all time. I really think that it's all about how they – go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's crazy to see all the great quarterbacks and how they've, most of them just been passed up on. And my thing is, I wonder, I wish, they would release some type of interview or something to ask the people at that time who were going over, who to draft and everything, passing up Tom Brady. You ask him now, yo, how do you feel about that? Tom Brady, 6 rings, first all-time passing touchdown, second all-time passing yards. Surely somebody would be kicking themselves in the butt.
Yeah,
they had to deal with that.
Yeah, so I personally believe it's it's all about the perception of the coach and how he sees fit to a certain player. Same thing rings true over to fantasy. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Go up and get your guy. So if you're in redraft and your pick doesn't come around for a little bit, and you take a guy high, or you pass on a guy because you think there's more value in later rounds. You see it all the time where it's all about that individual's evaluation of the player. And I don't think much changes by just having a pure skills competition like the combine. I think that it doesn't show true in-game value.
Damien says, any way to give Tom Brady a plug?
Of course.
Okay, continuing down this shopping list I have here. Future Jets quarterback Justin Fields enters NFL draft because they no longer have number 1 overall pick. I mean, look at the bright side. There's no Adam Gase. You guys actually have a promising head coach entering into the office there. So there's that. Did you have anything you wanted to add on to it? No. All right.
I heard somebody say Jets. I also heard Justin Fields. No, Justin Fields will not be a good NFL quarterback. Neither will Trevor Lawrence. I've made my argument on GroupMe about this, but definitely not Justin Fields. Stay away from the Jets.
So go ahead.
Lawrence Fields, any quarterback on their current roster.
I would still take Darnold over both of them, especially with a new coach. Now, does scare me that the guy coming over to him is defensive coordinator. I don't know how much developing he's going to do for a quarterback. However, he must have impressed somebody up in the Jets front office. But I also say that tongue-in-cheek as well, because Adam Gase also impressed somebody in there to be able to keep his job for as long as he did. All we can do is watch it develop a little bit. But I will go on record, again, as always, and say that and Ohio State quarterback will never be competitive in the NFL. They just do not breed them in the Big Ten to turn around and go to the NFL and be productive. Tell me the last Big Ten quarterback to be productive in the NFL, not named Tom Brady.
And even still, I wouldn't even consider Brady. He didn't start till his senior year. So that was kind of, luck and happenstance there. He wasn't really a product of that school, in my opinion.
And so the other one that we talk about would be Josh's guy who's getting ready to retire, Drew Brees, coming out of Purdue, correct?
Yes.
So the last two decent ones played this weekend. Outside of that, you have not seen a Big Ten quarterback be productive in the NFL, not at the quarterback position at least.
Right.
And Damien says Adam Gase is in talks to possibly become Seahawks offensive coordinator. So sell all your offensive stocks in their offense while you can. So pretty much, I'm gonna bring that over into the fantasy world here. So basically, sell Russell Wilson, or trade Russell Wilson, trade Tyler Lockett, trade DK. Chris Carson, get him out of there. Get clear house while you can. Sell high.
If you guys are selling DK, I'm buying. Just saying.
There you go. Give it to this sucker.
To me, I don't think Adam. I think that Darnold was the perfect quarterback for Gase to manipulate. I don't think the same can be done with a veteran quarterback like Wilson. So go ahead and sell on DK. I will take him gladly.
Speaking of manipulating quarterbacks and quarterbacks, taking that extra step and into the coaching role, did you see what Arians said about New England?
No.
So I saw Bruce Arians kind of took a shot at New England and said hey, New England used Brady wrong. So apparently New England wasn't letting Brady coach. And Arians is saying that, hey, we're letting Brady pretty much he's saying that me and Brady are apparently on the same level. We're letting him do his thing. We trust that he can get it done. And I don't know. It literally said Arians take shot at New England or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know how much that rings true. I know that they had their issues there in New England, offensive coordinators and Brady, but to say that they didn't let him coach.
And we lost Kevin.
Well, that was the weirdest way for him to go out. I mean, he was just gone.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk about the Patriots. Is that what I say? So,
Damien, did you do that? Did you figure out a way to get into the studio and kick him out? The greatest mic drop of all time, Kev.
I don't know what just happened there, boys.
I told Brian, I said I bring up New England once and you just leave me.
I don't know what just happened there. I'm having technical difficulties.
Before it happens again, let's at least get through this news, okay? So more into today's actually NFL stuff. Chargers hires Rams defensive coordinator Brandon Staley as their head coach. Lions are expected to hire the Saints assistant as their new head coach. And then I don't know what he's the assistant of, assistant head coach or something. And then Lions hire Aaron Glenn as defensive coordinator, and if I remember seeing that correctly, it was the secondary coach for New Orleans, I believe. Something
that I
like
don't
that.
know off the top of my head.
Philly. Real quick, Damien says this is stuff that happens when Brady comes up too many times. Yeah, we have a Brady overload here. Philly is expected to interview Dallas's offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, as well as Saints defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen, for their head coaching position. And the just to bring up Mahomes real quick before we get into this stuff that we can dive into. Mahomes is still in concussion protocol, and it is too early, they said, to predict if he's going to be available this weekend or not. And obviously, your starting quarterback, that is big information. However, what we saw out of Chad Henne this past weekend, I mean, still give Bills a run for their money. And on to the whole Desean spiel. I know we talked about it prior to this show tonight. He basically wants out of Houston. He put his phone on airplane mode, not answering calls. Kevin, where do you see Desean ending up?
I said this last year before he had gotten his contract. When he was on the final year, if this would have been his last year in the contract, that I saw him in New England. I still believe that to be the case. If it trades to be done, I believe it is to New England. As we've seen in the past, they don't really care about their draft picks too much. They will sell them, and they've got a few of them this year. I know that they are sitting third in cap room as well, so going out and trading for a quarterback, which you got to believe that Houston will probably have to eat most of the contract anyway, so he becomes cheap on your books. You go out and you do that. That affords them to go out and get a bunch of receivers and fill in the space around him. I personally, I'm a big fan of Desean Watson because of the arm strength that he's got and the deep ball ability, as well as the mobility that he causes in the pocket. So for me, it's New England.
So my thing is, I mean, if you're going from Houston to New England, I mean, the only real difference I see there is that you're just getting a better head coach, first of all, because Houston, he has a bunch of twos there with first guy is blanking me, but he's got Brandon Cooks. I think
Will Fuller the fifth.
Thank you. That's who it is.
He's still there. What is that?
No, I think
no. They cut Stills.
Is Randall Cobb still there?
Is Randall Cobb still in the NFL?
No, in Houston. I know he was on Houston.
I don't remember actually.
But my point is,
let me do the stat guy thing and go out and get your depth chart of wide receivers on Houston for you.
Thank you. But my point is, he's going from a team with a bunch of twos to another team with a bunch of twos, but they have a head coach. So
Damien says there's no way Watsonville wants to go play for the weaponless Patriots if he has a choice. I believe he would. I believe that Belichick is still a coach that players want to play under, and with the amount of money that they have, that they will go out and get a bunch of weapons with the open cap. They're third only behind Jacksonville and the Jets. So you pair that with picks that you can trade away, a ton of receivers out there that you can go get off of free agency and use your cap that way, which we've seen done in the past. They brought in Moss that way, Sanu last year, Hogan. It's been done time and time again within that organization. So
I have a quick question, Kevin. Who's the worst team for cap space?
Oh, that is the Saints. The Eagles are 31st and the Saints are 32nd. I believe they have negative 62 million in cap, something like that. Negative 62 million in cap space.
So wait a minute. Teach me English here. The salary cap doesn't mean anything then, is what you're saying. We're now dealing with luxury tax like the NBA has.
Pretty much, because I don't think you can have negative cap, because that would mean that you go over and you're not capping anything. So
yeah, it doesn't sound like it. Your depth chart for Houston wide receivers: Brandon Cooks, Kiki Cote, Chad Henson, Isaiah Coulter, and then you get into your tight ends from there: Jordan Atkins, Darren Fells.
I knew they had Kiki Kuti as well.
So as far as the cap goes, to answer Brian's question, I believe you can go negative within the year, but I believe you have to become in the black ahead of the next year before you make anything. That's why you see a lot of teams making their cuts now to get above it before the start of the league year.
You just see New Orleans comes out and cuts Kamara for cap space reasons.
Well, then I have a question. So in New Orleans Saints' mind, then this was the year they had to do it because of where they're at negative cap space. Do you think Brady decided to pick the NFC South in Tampa Bay, knowing that if he goes there and now they don't have the cap space to keep the team together there, that he takes the NFC South every year because Carolina and Atlanta aren't competitive? It's just them and the Saints.
Carolina,
I think that went into it. I think that's got to go into it. Well, when we previewed, I know we have to move on to our final topic here, which we're going to run over. But I said this going into this year when Brady had swapped teams, that there's got to be a couple things in place if you're Brady. You have to have a good offensive line because we know he's not going to be mobile. You have to already have veteran weapons there. You have to have somebody on the staff that he's familiar with, or somebody on the staff that's going to give him his way. And Arians is a quarterback's coach, and as we just read it throughout the NFL news, he's letting Brady coach and be the offensive coordinator, basically. And then you also have to give him the ability to have his culture, his personal trainers for himself, all that kind of stuff. So there was only 3 teams that really gave that to him, and it was the Cowboys, the Chargers, and the Bucks that weren't the Patriots already. So I think it was the best out of the 3. I think that playing the Saints, knowing that there's only one other competitive team in the division, probably helped. But I think it was more so the other options, or other reasons, rather.
All right. I know you mentioned that we were kind of running over on time, so that's why I'm going to wrap things up with the NFL news. And that brings us into our new segment that you kind of proposed to me today. So since it's pretty much your segment, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
We are going to play a game that I like to call Where Are They Now? Brought to you by the mad scientist Damien. Damien, who is on with us now. Thank you again for pulling this list together in a short, almost no time frame or no leeway on it. What we're going to do is we're going to go through the average draft position, which is what ADP stands for, Josh, not auction, and recap where players went in the first 2 rounds of last year's draft, and then predict where they will go now in this year's draft.
So I wanna defend my intro there. All right. So prior to this show, Kevin brought the idea up to me, and he literally said we are going to do it Price is Right style and go higher or lower. So in my mind, I think that Kevin's going to hand me a player's name, say Mahomes, give me a dollar amount, say $50 or however much Mahomes will go for, and I have to say higher or lower. So
that's a good idea. I wish I would have came up with that idea.
Yeah, I'm bringing my case here. I'm pleading my case. Continue.
I wish I would have came up with that idea. That's better than what I had planned. Cool. We are just going to give the player's name and say, out of the position he was drafted, will he be drafted higher or lower? Not assigned to a dollar amount, just based on a redraft setting only.
So,
go ahead.
So this whole segment is opinion based, or is there like an actual answer to this?
Opinion based.
Oh, okay. I like opinion based because I can just say whatever I want. Then you can just tell me Christian McCaffrey, and I'll just say I don't care.
Well,
I hate McCaffrey.
Well, speaking of Christian McCaffrey, he was 101 at the average draft position across FSA. Will he be drafted at 101 or lower in this upcoming draft?
Lower.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree there. I think that I don't think he drops far.
No, he doesn't drop far because because he's still a good player. It's just the injuries. It's hard to trust how he's going to come back from those injuries. But pretty much like we just said, nonetheless, he is still a good player. But I would rather take Mahomes over him. Like, okay, next.
So number 2, first round, second overall pick, another running back, Saquon Barkley, also plagued with injuries. Higher or lower?
Lower injuries, and it's a more severe injury than McCaffrey.
And as Damien mentions here, to be clear, this is an average draft position from all 6 regions of FSA last year of players drafted.
I have a question real quick. Who drafted Saquon second overall?
A few people must have.
Oh my goodness!
I guess they're kicking themselves now, huh?
Both, well, number 1 and number 2, they're both kicking themselves.
Whoa. Watch yourself there, because both myself and Brian drafted
thin water there with the Christian McCaffrey dig. But
hey, you picked a Carolina running back. You picked somebody from Carolina. I could have told you.
Wait a minute. My first 2 picks were Christian McCaffrey, and then I forgot his name. What's the kid out of the Chargers? Austin Eckler was my number 2 overall pick. Thank you very much. Still made the playoffs. You're welcome.
So, number 3 overall, it is Patrick and his prices.
I'm going to say
if
higher.
You heard me there. Higher?
You started
higher than 103
when you were saying number 3, but heard Patrick Price clear.
Yeah, I think that he'll end up higher as well. I think that he'll probably go unanimously 101 this year, just because of the running backs behind him have all seemed to dropped out, especially being super flex, where you got to go get your guy early.
I'm not trying to take up too much of your time, because we could do another 2-hour conversation of this. If FSA was to drop quarterbacks passing points to 5 points per, would it change your mind on where you take Patrick Mahomes?
No.
Okay. I knew what Kevin's answer was going to be. I just want to see what Josh's answer was going to be.
And I'll give a little bit of explanation around that, right? If you look at the amount of receivers and the amount of running backs, the value drops off too harshly compared to quarterbacks. What I mean is, if you're looking at quarterbacks, if you're looking at a 12-man league, which we had run last season, so you have to get one of the top 12, right? If you're looking at running backs or receivers, you're already starting to, and you're probably going to roster at least 4 of each because of the flex positions. So you have much more room to vary there versus having the need to get somebody in the top 12. Then you throw in the caveat of a super flex, to where people are going to be targeting quarterbacks, because now I can start 2 of them. It gives you an even greater reason to go and reach for one sooner, regardless of the amount of points that they score. They could score 5 points in a game, and I really don't care, because if the top guy scores 5 and the bottom guy scores 0, I want that 5 points, regardless of comparison position to position.
And Damien agrees with us as well. Says, I also say it wouldn't, though. I do believe that gave guys like Jackson and Allen a little bump up.
I agree.
Oh, no, yeah, I agree. I don't think that even if you drop their points, I don't think it changes much. Who's on deck for number 4?
So number 4 is Zeke.
Ooh. I'm thinking like second round. I think after this season,
you think he falls all the way out of this first?
I think after this season, in my books, he's out of the first round.
I could see that happening. I could see both. I could actually see both of the Browns running backs being drafted ahead of Zeke.
Maybe not Hunt. At the same time, though, it's like it's so hard because say you draft Chubb, he has a good first 2 weeks, then drops off 3 and 4, has a good 5 and 6, drops off 7 and 8.
Right.
And that's something that you can't have when you have Chubb as your first running back, you're starting him every week. But you can't have that running back that falls off 2 weeks here, falls off 2 weeks there. You can't have that.
Then we go down to 105, Lamar Jackson, the second highest quarterback taken on the list.
Falls. 5th, yeah, falls. I could see Allen going before Lamar does.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree there. I think that he falls. I think that he personally falls out of the first 2 rounds. I think there's a lot more value in guys that went in that range, in that 3 to 4 range. I think he'll fall back to there. I could see people reaching on him though.
And
Maybe late first, early second, but I would still consider that a reach in my book.
yeah, that's what I was about to say. There's still going to be those guys who are taking Lamar late first, maybe even mid first round into second round. But personally, if I have the 5th overall pick, 4th overall pick, I'm not wasting it on Lamar again. I'm not making that mistake again. I made it twice in Dynasty, which thankfully I traded him, and in our ESPN league.
Yeah. Then next we have 106. Can't guard me, Mike.
You're going to say that. Injuries again. And also, I think that this past game really opened a lot of people's eyes, even myself, that, he's a little more average instead of, can't guard level. So I think he needs to change that Instagram name. But yeah, I think he falls.
I'm going to say falls as well, only because he is the highest rated receiver on this list. And I think that there's a couple bigger name guys that jump up ahead of him.
I can think of 2 receivers right now that would go higher than him.
Yeah, I think that based on this past season, the biggest standout to me was probably the most overlooked in this last draft, which is Damian's guy, Devontae Adams. He fell in most leagues. I think that mistake won't be made again.
I can name
next year.
Who fell even more than Devontae Adams. I believe Devontae Adams was like a 2nd round pick.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna bring up a man by the name of Mr. Stefan Diggs, because I believe.
You think that he gets drafted this upcoming season over Michael Thomas? You would have to put Diggs in the first 2 rounds then.
Okay.
Because I don't see Thomas falling out of the second.
And hear me out real quick. Hear me out. So Brees retires, Diggs goes before Thomas. Brees stays, Thomas goes before Diggs.
Both in the top 2 rounds.
I think whether Brees is back or not, Diggs replaces where anybody would have taken Thomas this year. Period.
Ooh.
So you think that Diggs, based on this list, Diggs would go 106 in that range?
I will tell you then, going off of that, I would make him the 2nd wide receiver off the board.
Behind Adams?
Yes.
Or Hopkins.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Because right now, I think Adams, Hopkins, and Diggs, maybe Tyreek Hill, but like I said, hard to trust him. Even though
Do you put Julio back in the conversation? I know he had a terrible year.
I'd rather take Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley had his injuries, but for the most part, Calvin Ridley can stay healthy. I like a receiver who is there just about all 16 games. Diggs was there. Adams had 2 games off and was still number 1.
Yeah, the best ability is dependability.
Exactly.
If you're not there, moving down the list, we go to another Saint, 107, Alvin Kamara.
Oh, you're really pulling out the strings here.
I'll help you out. I would take Kamara number 1 over CMC. I would take him possibly even over Mahomes. I don't care who the quarterback is in that case. If it's Jameis Winston, I probably bump him even more.
And I was going to agree with you. I was going to say up.
So far, we've only bumped up to. He's only the second player on the list we've bumped up. We've bumped up Patrick Mahomes. Everyone else has fallen. Kamara goes up. I'm going to have to agree there. 107 for the performance he had this year. I think he does go up.
Yeah, and I think it's also because of all the guys that we're bumping down. So I think all these guys dropping out of the first round opens up the space for, a Kamara. And I know his name's coming, which is a Dalvin Cook going up. So you can already, mark my answer for him as well.
108, Dalvin Cook.
Up. I mean.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. I don't think he goes up much, though. Up from 108, yes. I think that the couple guys that we bumped down, I still see people reaching CMC over Cook. I still see people, I believe Diggs will be over Cook. Then you've got, there's a couple quarterbacks that won't be on this list that could be there. So I think Cook goes higher than 108. I believe he's in the top 3 running backs gone. Cook, CMC, and Alvin Kamara. Damian says, depending on who's the quarterback, if it's Hill, he's going to vulture a bunch of TDs from Kamara because he can run in. That is true, but I don't think he hurts him enough.
That is true. All right, let's at least get through, because I know we're running over that hour mark. So let's get through the first round, and we'll see what we want to do from there.
Number 9, 109, Derrick Henry.
Up. Like I said, we're dropping a bunch of guys out of the first round. Opens up a bunch of room. Mr. 2K himself, put him up there.
So we dropped out Saquon, CMC, and Zeke at the running back position. Those 3. We're bumping up Kamara, Henry, and Cook. Do you see those 3 that I just mentioned going above the 3 we dropped out?
Personally, yes. I would look at those 3 before I looked at the other 3. However, we keep saying that there's going to be those guys who are still going to take their CMC. I mean, and at the same time, if you get to 105 and CMC is still there, but Kamara, Cook, and Henry are gone, like, you got to do it. But yeah, I could see those 3 going before the other 3 just because you can't trust them.
The next few are.
I just want to make one quick comment. Yeah, I think I would still probably take CMC over Cook. Yes, it's 2,000 yards. However, we already know, or I'm not sorry, we're talking about Henry right now. I would still take CMC over Henry. Reason being is the half point or possible full point PPR for us next year. CMC can do 1,000 on both and still get the same 2,000 yards and add that half or full point PPR. We know Henry doesn't catch anything out of the backfield. For that and that alone, that would still put CMC slightly above Henry for me.
Yeah, and that's what brings Kamara on that kind of same level as Henry fantasy-wise, because I believe Kamara had like 80-something catches. Henry only had like 17.
As we move down the list, the next few guys here are pretty easy. 110, Dak. I got to agree. Pretty easy for me to drop him out. Probably the biggest question mark in the first round. Clyde Edwards-Hilaire at the 11th best pick.
I gotta reach high for this one because big no. They have too many weapons. Too many weapons.
If you're looking at a football perspective, great player, great performance. At a fantasy perspective, you've got
really good addition for them.
Yeah, you've got Le'Veon, you've got Tyreek Hill, you've got Travis Kelce, you got Mahomes that can run by himself if he wants. I mean, you've got so many weapons there, as you mentioned. I think people expected him to be a bigger part than what he was based on name recognition and what he did in college, and over-evaluated him, and definitely reached here.
Where are we at now?
We are at the bottom of the first round, 112, Russell Wilson.
I knew his name was real quick before I give me here. I was gonna bring that one up too. I love how into this average Josh is getting, because I just like it. It's not, stat, like it's not it has nothing to do with stats. It's purely opinion based. I can get behind it. I love it. I love the idea. I think we should keep doing it on shows to come before season 1 comes to a close. As far as Russell Wilson goes, I think he drops.
Yeah, I do too. I think that based on the second half of his year, he will drop. But because of that, I also predict him to be a big boom guy next year. I think that he falls to that 3-4 range, rounds 3 and 4. I think that you're still going to see guys. I think you're going to see guys like your Burrows jump ahead of him. Herbert, if they name him the starter next year, he could potentially jump above Wilson does. But I think based on the performance of the first half of the year and getting back into that rhythm, I do think he could be another big boom guy and put up another big year, as long as he sustains the numbers.
People will always remember that hangover to carry you into the next season, so they're going to let him drop. And then anybody who grabs him, kind of like your argument to me the other day about Tom Brady and where you pick him up and what he does for you. I was going to bring it up. Josh already brought it up. Do we carry this over to future shows? Hey, what do we got to talk about tomorrow night? Let's start in the 201 tomorrow night, and let's pick it up together as a group.
So that's what I was going to say. I was going to say I think we should continue this into Wednesdays. Give us some more ways to get through the rounds. I think we should carry it to the end of the season. Finish it at season finale time. Because how many more shows do we have? When Super Bowl is on the 7th, I believe.
Our last show is going to be 10 February. That will be the award show for us. So as far as Fanatically Real broadcasts go, we have 4 more shows to go. So depending on how much of a frequency you guys want to go through, how much we can get the Empty Wagon guys to go through as well. And I know this would probably be tough. Damien, you're still out there listening to us. I think you're the only one still listening to us tonight. I don't know what your work schedule looks like in the next day or week. This was your idea, or at least you came up with the ADP for us across the 6 regions that we had in FSA this year. If we can get you live on a show with us, that would be awesome. Just let us know.
Yeah, I do currently have my assistant Damien in the background finishing out the ADP to go through every round that FSA had drafted in. So a little bit of a short notice, only got the 2 rounds. Again, thank you, Damien. I will have the rest, though.
So real quick before we wrap up the show, because we are kind of going over. So if we were to do this segment on, Fanatically Real broadcast, so that means we got round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That means that we would get to about round 7, which seems like a good way to finish off. We would be at round 7 by 9 February, or however Brian says, and I'm kind of trying to get on his lingo with the dates and the times and stuff. So I think that about real NFL draft is 7 rounds. So I think that's a good way to.
I think the other thing comparison to that too is we start 10 in the redraft league. One of quarterback and one is kicker and defense. And nobody cares about tight end. So other than the top 3 that we could possibly pick in these rounds, I would think anybody else that we would mention that was on an ADP for these first 7 would probably drop. I say we try to see what we can do for the next ones. And if we get through the segments a little bit quicker, depending on what you guys want to do over your shows, maybe we get through 2 rounds instead of just 1.
Yeah, I would assume that we get through these shows a little bit quicker now that obviously next week we'll only have 2 games to talk about. And I assume that the news is going to be much shorter. I really didn't prep Josh as well as I could have, knowing that I wanted this to be off the cuff for his reactions. So I believe we can get 2 to 3 rounds in next week and then go from there. But that does wrap it up for this week.
All right. And before we return to our regularly scheduled Average Bros Fantasy Show next week on the 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, go check out that mug right there. If I can get my finger right, that mug right there. Our above average stat guy, Brian, tomorrow night on the Fanatically Real broadcast at 8:30 p.m. on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter. If you can't catch them live, catch us on Apple Podcasts. I got a piece of hair on me somewhere. Anchor, Stitcher, wherever you can find us. After that, you guys.
Squirrel, shiny.
I like to keep. I'm keeping it, off the chain here. I'm keeping it like.
I don't think that's the term.
Well, it's an average term for an average Josh. After Wednesday night's show, you guys can catch me. I know Damien was there. For Damien, wherever the comments are, Damien caught me on Saturday and Sunday night. However, Friday night at 7 p.m., you can catch me over on Twitch. I will actually finally be streaming some Madden, Damien, so I know you'll be interested in that. After that, you guys can catch the Empty Wagon on Saturday morning at midnight. Brian, is that a yes? Is it a yay or a nay?
I think they're off this week. I will confirm. What I would really love to do is to be able to put a schedule for all of us all the way out till February 10th. I will get with Brad, Josh, or Eric and find out if they're going to go this week. Did they go last week? If they didn't go last week, they're on this week. And I think they're probably only going to do it Friday going into Saturday. There probably will not be a Sunday show. Unless the guys want to come out and do something after the AFC and NFC championship, it's a possibility. But I'll get with those guys and find out.
Okay. So pretty much you guys can check out what Empty Wagon Plans are doing tomorrow night when Brian figures out what they're doing. After that, you can catch me yet again on Twitch Saturday night at 9 p.m. Playing pretty much whatever. Just like I said, a way to get away from fantasy football, the craziness that we've been bringing you guys, just a way to come chill and all that nonsense. Like Brian said, possibly no Empty Wagon on Sunday night or Monday morning at midnight, depending on where you live. Are you guys doing happy hour? Get back on in your Brian.
Possibly.
I'm already doing happy hour right now. But if you want to wait till Sunday for happy hour, if the requests are there, yeah, we'll do it. I mean, we'll know who our Super Bowl teams are at that moment. By the time we get ready to do it, or pretty close to it, we should be about halftime of the second game by then. I'm down for some happy hour.
Well, I mean, you guys heard it here first. There's most likely going to be some happy hour as long as the people want it. That's all from me. I believe that's all from Kevin. So pretty much let's get into some sponsors. Right, Kevin?
As always, we would like to thank our broadcast sponsor, Football Darts, and QB54, our Arm and Leg League sponsor, and Nature Coast Tailgating, our World Championship Bowl game sponsor, and all of our other sponsors as well, Finger Lake Mercantile, Deep South Creation, Southern Siren Sugar Scrub, Cranky Veteran Candle Company, Shell and Mel's Boutique, and The Recast, the official music of FSA.
Kevin, any last words?
That is it for me. Make sure you guys check us out tomorrow. A lot more news to be had there. A lot of exciting stuff.
Kevin, I want to keep my end of the promise, so I'm doing this right here, right now. Guys, before we sign off here, head on over to Kevin, where is it?
What are you looking for? I don't know.
I'm just gonna throw it up here. Kevin, give them the link. Give them the link.
Let me go and grab it there, bud. Put me on the spot here.
Well, I wanted to hold up on my end of the promise here. I know I said I was gonna do it, but guys, Kevin is gonna give you the link to our new merch website that is coming soon. where you see there, he's going to give you the link. Head on over here. It's going to ask for your email. Sign up for the notifications for when we officially go live on 1 March, I believe. And you guys can get yourself some, I'm going to stand up for this one, some awesome Average Bros merch. Like, this is amazing. I love it.
It warms my heart so much that I have turned you guys over to start doing military dates and military time. I do greatly appreciate that. Yes, we'll open up the new merch site on 1 March for all of you. Yeah, you can grab the website there now if you see it. However, if you go out to fsa-fr.com, when we do switch it over, you can click on the shop link that's there, and it will take you over here to this as well. We'll talk about it again tomorrow night on the show and give you all the benefits of what you're going to get out of this new store as well.
Well, pretty much there you go. Just I like I said, I wanted to make sure I held up on my end of the deal here. I know I said I was going to do it for you. Kevin, you have an amazing night. Everybody also remember, kickers are people too. Kevin, any final words?
That's it from me.
Have a nice night, everybody. And that's